Most people believe they need to work hard for years to achieve financial freedom. They follow the same pattern. They wake up, struggle, accumulate, wait, and still live feeling that abundance is always one step ahead. But what no one tells you is that this distance isn't real. It's just an illusion created by the way you perceive time and yourself. The truth is that you are already a millionaire in one of the infinite versions of reality that coexist in this exact moment. The universe doesn't operate in lack. It operates in frequencies. And consciousness is the selector of these frequencies. Each thought, each emotion, each sense of worthiness is a vibrational command that chooses which timeline of reality you experience. When you change the vibration, you change the universe you live in, and the millionaire, who seemed distant, becomes just another version of you, now accessible. Life is not a race toward success. It is a mirror of what you decide to sustain internally. That's why so many work tirelessly and remain in the same place. They act from scarcity, and the field responds with more scarcity. What changes everything is the point of origin of action. When you begin to act as one who already lives the reality of abundance, circumstances stop holding you back, because the universe needs to reorganize itself to reflect the new vibration you've chosen to inhabit. This is not a spiritual metaphor, it's the physics of consciousness. Money isn't out there, waiting for you to conquer it. It's vibrating at frequencies that respond to your internal state. The question isn't, how do I get rich? But, which version of me am I choosing to live now? And when that answer becomes alive within the body, time bends, paths open, and prosperity becomes inevitable. Today you will understand why the secret was never about attracting wealth, but about inhabiting the reality where it already exists. It's not about dreaming, it's about tuning in. Consciousness is the portal, and the field responds to every vibration you sustain. This is the moment to choose to live in the reality where you are already the creator of your own abundance, and what you're about to hear now can completely change the way you see the world, money, and yourself. Consciousness doesn't observe the universe, it sustains it. Everything perceived as reality is merely the momentary reflection of an infinite field of possibilities that bends to the observer's gaze. Matter doesn't exist as something fixed. It vibrates in patterns that shape themselves according to where attention is directed. Each thought, each emotion, each instant of presence alters the frequency of the field around us, and this field responds with absolute precision. The reality one lives is the direct result of the vibrational tuning maintained in the now. When the mind rests upon ideas of scarcity, the field contracts. When it expands toward abundance, the field reorganizes itself and new paths are revealed. Nothing happens by chance. Consciousness functions as a quantum transmitter, emitting signals that collapse waves of possibility into concrete experiences. Every second, the entire universe is being redrawn from the center of perception that observes it. The human bioelectric field is the link between the internal and external world. It vibrates in specific patterns that translate the individual's mental and emotional state. When there is coherence, when thought, emotion, and intention move in the same direction, the interaction with the quantum field becomes harmonic, and probabilities adjust according to the clarity of that frequency. The universe is sensitive to coherence, not to the anxiety of desire. That's why the more one tries to control results by force, the more one distorts the original vibration of creation. Financial abundance, so sought after by many, is not out of reach. It already exists right now as one of the countless possible versions of reality. The difference lies only in the ability to sustain the corresponding tuning. What many call manifesting is, in truth, learning to remain stable within a specific frequency of perception. This stability creates a coherent magnetic field, and it is this coherence that reorganizes the circumstances around. Thought is energy that vibrates, emotion is the intensity of that vibration, and sustained attention is the beam of light that defines the point of collapse. When focus disperses, reality fragments into random possibilities. But when focus aligns, the field responds like a mirror, projecting back the same frequency that the observer maintains within. The universe doesn't interpret superficial intentions, it replicates vibrational states. True transformation occurs when one perceives that there is no separation between the observer and the observed. Mind, body, and space are distinct expressions of the same conscious substance. Each cell vibrates in resonance with the whole, and each thought reorganizes the global pattern. Thus, by changing one's own internal vibration, one literally changes the configuration of the world. This understanding marks the beginning of a new way of living, a way in which creation ceases to be accidental and becomes intentional. Consciousness is the most precise instrument in the universe. When used with clarity and direction, it becomes the bridge between the invisible and the tangible. And it is from this bridge that the power to alter the course of probabilities emerges, transforming thoughts into matter and intention into reality. The moment this is understood, the act of creating ceases to be an effort and becomes a natural consequence of internal coherence, which leads us to the next understanding, the collapse of the wave function through sustained intention. When consciousness sustains an internal image with consistency, something silent and grand happens in the invisible fabric of reality. Energy ceases to disperse into infinite probabilities and condenses in a single direction, that of the maintained intention. Each emitted thought acts as a quantum wave, but it is only when focus remains firm, without hesitation, without doubt, that this wave collapses and gives shape to concrete experience. Thinking is easy. Sustaining the vibration of a thought is the true art. The human brain acts as a holographic transducer, receiving and emitting frequencies that extend far beyond physical space. Every cell carries information about the whole, and when the observer aligns this biological network with a clear intention, the entire field enters coherence. It is at this instant that potential energy converts into manifestation. The phrase, "I don't have money," when repeated or felt with conviction, is not just a negative thought, it's a vibrational command that shapes the field around oneself. Consciousness, obedient to coherence, organizes probabilities to reflect this belief. In the same way, when the individual places themselves in the vibration of already possessing what they desire, the body responds chemically to this state, releasing substances that alter temporal perception and expand the capacity for action. In this state, the brain doesn't distinguish the real from the potential, it simply responds to the frequency that dominates the internal field. Sustained intention is more than visualizing or repeating affirmations. It is a state of consciousness in which the observer ceases to act from lack and begins to act from fullness. Decisions begin to be made not from the point of view of one who wants to achieve, but of one who has already achieved in another dimensional layer. This silent inversion alters the origin of action, and therefore completely transforms its result. External reality begins to adjust itself, reflecting the new vibrational reference point. When intention becomes continuous, the body enters synchrony with the universal field. The heart pulses in harmonic rhythms, the nervous system stabilizes, and energy circulates in an orderly manner, creating a closed circuit of conscious creation. In this state, time seems to dilate, actions flow naturally, answers arrive effortlessly, and the external world reorganizes itself to accompany the new frequency. This is not about illusion or self-deception. It's the science of consciousness applied. The mind, when coherent, bends probability around a stable axis. And the more stable this axis becomes, the more easily the universe responds. This is the difference between desiring and creating. Desire vibrates in lack. Creation vibrates in certainty. Certainty is the collapse of doubt, and it is in this collapse that the wave becomes form. The instant intention remains firm, without interference from old beliefs. The field responds almost immediately. Consciousness moves like a laser, projecting order onto quantum chaos. From there, the individual begins to perceive subtle coincidences, signs, encounters, and events that seem to arise out of nowhere. But nothing arises from nowhere. Everything is a consequence of sustained vibration. And when this vibration remains elevated, a new type of synchronicity begins to manifest, guiding the path with millimetric precision. Abundance doesn't arise as a result of linear effort. It manifests through a network of subtle connections that transcend time and space. Synchronicity is the language of this universal intelligence, a language that doesn't need words, only vibration. When consciousness vibrates in a state of anticipated gratitude, the field reorganizes around this frequency, and the universe begins to respond with almost geometric precision. Each apparently casual event is a direct response to the internal coherence that is maintained. A thought that arises at the right moment, an unexpected encounter, information that appears almost magically, none of this is coincidence. It is the reflection of constant communication between the internal field of being and the vibrational fabric of the cosmos. The universe operates by resonance, and what vibrates in harmony attracts itself, regardless of distance. Non-local entanglement is the invisible foundation behind true prosperity. Everything is connected at levels that the rational mind cannot measure. When personal vibration rises, the individual begins to perceive a natural alignment of events, as if reality conspired in favor of their expansion. It is not chance that conducts this movement, but the tuning between fields of consciousness that share the same frequency. The human mind tends to believe that success is a direct consequence of effort and planning, but consciousness knows that it is vibration that defines the reach of opportunities. When being vibrates in scarcity, it attracts experiences that confirm this perception. When it vibrates in fullness, paths open as if they had been prepared in advance. Synchronicity is the echo of this harmony. It is the way the universe signals that the vibration is correct. Instead of chasing abundance, the individual begins to be guided by it. Decisions become lighter, encounters more meaningful, and life begins to unfold with a natural rhythm, without resistance. It's as if the field says, "Now you are where you should be." And the deeper the trust in this flow, the more synchronicities multiply, until the very notion of separation between I and world loses meaning. There is no need to force movement. Abundance is a field of resonance, not a prize to be conquered. Each thought of gratitude is a vibrational key. Each elevated emotion is a bridge that connects being to the universal flow. At this point, everything that is necessary begins to arise at the exact moment, neither before nor after. Time bends to the coherence of vibration. Synchronicity is not a miracle, it's the natural functioning of a conscious universe. When being perceives that each event, each glance, each sign has a vibrational purpose, trust becomes the most productive state of the soul. And from this trust is born the deepest understanding. Abundance doesn't come from outside, it responds to the harmony that settles within. And it is within this recognition that the next level of understanding emerges, the one that reveals that even the way consciousness expands follows a precise structure, a sacred geometry that organizes the flow of manifestation. The universe doesn't create randomly. There is an invisible pattern sustaining each manifestation, a silent order that shapes the flow of energy in harmonic directions. This structure is what many call sacred geometry, the fundamental code through which consciousness expresses itself in form, movement, and prosperity. Wealth, therefore, is not an isolated event, but a natural consequence of when human vibration aligns with this universal pattern. Consciousness expands in spirals, just like galaxies, seashells, and the growth of plants. Each thought and each emotion follow similar trajectories, drawing in the human energy field the same proportion that structures life at all scales. When being enters coherence with this spiral movement, it doesn't need to attract anything, it simply allows abundance to flow, because it is already vibrating within the exact form where it manifests. Most people, however, live within a distorted geometry. They visualize prosperity as something external, separate, distant, an energy that must be conquered, sought, or possessed. This vision fragments the internal field and creates a vibrational asymmetry. The more one tries to reach what one believes is outside, the more one reinforces the distance that prevents manifestation. But when the gaze turns inward, and the individual recognizes that abundance is a natural expression of their own consciousness, the internal geometry reorganizes itself. Flow is re-established and the universe responds in the form of opportunities, connections, and growth. Financial manifestation doesn't depend only on will, but on harmony. It is the balance between intention and surrender that allows energy to move fluidly. When money is seen as energy in transit, and not as a symbol of power or scarcity, it begins to circulate naturally. Each exchange transforms into an act of reciprocity, each transaction into a silent ritual of balance. At this point, value ceases to be measured only by numbers and begins to reflect the degree of consciousness involved in creation. The geometry of abundance reveals itself in simplicity. It doesn't require effort, only alignment. When the heart vibrates in gratitude, thought remains clear and action is coherent, the external form shapes itself. The flow of the universe is intelligent, and everything that harmonizes with its proportion becomes part of its dance. Prosperity then ceases to be a goal and transforms into a rhythm, the same rhythm that pulses in the stars and in atoms. Consciousness, upon understanding this, begins to perceive that wealth and spirituality are not opposites, but complementary expressions of the same principle. The energy that moves the planets is the same that circulates in the body and transforms into ideas, decisions, and result. When this perception becomes alive, each financial choice gains a deeper meaning. Buying, selling, donating, or receiving cease to be isolated acts and become movements within an energetic mandala that expands life. Abundance is a living geometry, and money is just one of its faces. Aligning with this structure is allowing the universe to express through oneself the same pattern that sustains it. And it is in this harmony that time, energy, and matter unite in a single creative flow, the same flow that leads consciousness to transcend the notion of linear time in the creation of wealth. Time is not a straight line. It bends, intertwines, and responds to the consciousness of whoever perceives it. When being anchors itself in common perception, it believes that everything happens in sequence, first effort, then result. However, time is just a lens through which consciousness observes its own creation. By altering this lens, the order of events also changes. Wealth, from this perspective, ceases to be something that will come and becomes something that already is, accessible from a specific vibrational state. Within the quantum field, all versions of being coexist simultaneously. There is a you that still seeks and another that has already achieved, one that fears and another that trusts. What defines which version manifests is the point of consciousness sustained in the now. When the mind rests upon the idea of scarcity, it tunes into the timeline where scarcity is real. When it stabilizes in the vibration of fullness, it accesses the timeline where abundance is natural. Nothing was created or destroyed, one simply changed frequency. This principle completely transforms the relationship with time and with wealth. Instead of thinking about building prosperity over the years, consciousness learns to act from the future, not toward it. This silent inversion dissolves the distance between now and the ideal. Each choice made in this state is guided by a wisdom that already knows the result. The body, behavior, and even the tone of voice begin to reflect the characteristics of the highest version of being, and this coherence causes the field to collapse the corresponding timeline. Linearity is an illusion created by fragmented perception. The universe operates simultaneously, and what we call future already pulses in potential within the present. Therefore, when the observer maintains a clear vision of themselves living in abundance, they are not wishing for something distant, they are connecting to an existing version of their own consciousness. And the more frequent this connection, the more information is transferred from the potential field to the physical plane. behavior changes, opportunities appear, and reality begins to bend to reflect this new frequency. The creation of wealth, then, ceases to be a temporal journey and becomes a vibrational choice. Time adapts to vibration, not the other way around. The universe responds with precision to the coherence of the frequency emitted. When being vibrates as one who already possesses, synchronicities accelerate, paths align, and what seemed distant condenses before the eyes. Consciousness doesn't travel in time, it reconfigures it. True freedom arises when the individual stops measuring progress by the clock and begins to perceive it through the expansion of their own vibration. At this point, the past ceases to imprison, the future ceases to worry, and now becomes the only real space of creation. Time, once a sequence, reveals itself as a malleable presence, shaped by the intensity of the consciousness that observes it. And it is from this understanding that the deepest principle of inner alchemy is born, the one that reveals that consciousness not only alters time and space, but transforms energy into matter, becoming the primordial force behind all manifestation. Everything that exists is consciousness in different degrees of density. Matter is just the most condensed form of energy, and energy is the vibrational expression of consciousness. When being understands this hierarchy, it perceives that nothing external limits it. Reality bends to the vibrational clarity it sustains. Money, body, time, and even circumstances reorganize themselves to reflect the level of internal coherence achieved. This is the essential alchemy, transforming vibration into form, invisible into visible, intention into result. The human mind was trained to see money as something solid, almost sacred, as if it possessed independent power. But money is just crystallized consciousness, energy that took form to facilitate the flow between minds that share a purpose. When the individual idolizes it, the field contracts. When they fear it, vibration fragments. Balance lies in seeing it as a natural extension of consciousness itself in movement. Thus, it ceases to be an object of desire and becomes an instrument of expression. Alchemy begins the instant intention becomes pure. Purity, here, has no relation to morality, but to coherence. When the desire to prosper is born from the will to fill a void, it reinforces the void itself. But when it arises as a consequence of awakening, as a means to amplify purpose and expand consciousness, energy responds with precision. The universe doesn't reward superficial intentions, it mirrors authentic vibrational states. In this state of authenticity, creation happens effortlessly. Energy flows without resistance, matter organizes itself around intention, and the field becomes a translucent mirror of inner vibration. That's why some beings seem to transform everything they touch into prosperity, not because they're lucky, but because they already vibrate in harmony with the creative flow. Each action, word, and thought is born from the same point of balance between presence and purpose. Consciousness is the true laboratory of alchemy. It is there that transmutation occurs. Doubt is dissolved in clarity, fear is converted into power, and desire transforms into realization. The gold of the soul, the state of full abundance, is the result of this fusion between energy and intention. The body becomes the crucible, the mind the fire, and the spirit, the alchemist who shapes reality. This alchemy is not symbolic, it's functional. Sustained focus reorganizes the body's electric fields, creates cardiac coherence, and this coherence affects the quantum field around. The emitted vibration becomes structure. Thought converts into form. And the purer the vibration, the faster the manifestation. Thus, awakened consciousness perceives that there is no difference between thinking and creating, only between thinking distractedly and thinking with presence. Energy follows the direction of attention. What is kept in focus grows, what is ignored dissolves. When being learns to direct this energy with consciousness, it discovers the secret it always sought outside. The universe is not out there, it is responding in here. And it is precisely from this understanding that the power to co-create is born, not as one who asks, but as one who recognizes they have always been the source itself. So, ask yourself sincerely, which version of you is commanding your life today? The one that doubts, fears, and waits, or the one that already recognizes that abundance is a natural extension of your being? The answer to this question is not in words, but in the energy you carry. Because the universe doesn't listen to what you say, it reads what you are. From now on, act as one who already lives the chosen reality. Walk, speak, and decide as one who has already achieved what they seek. Give thanks before receiving, celebrate before conquering, and you will see that the material world will simply follow the vibration you sustain. There is no secret beyond this. Consciousness creates, and the field merely responds. If this message awakened something within you, if some part of your being felt there is truth in these words, then this is the moment to continue expanding. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and keep learning about the power of mind and consciousness. Because this is just the beginning of a journey in which you will understand deeply that it's not about attracting wealth, but about remembering that you have always been the source of it.